Welcome back to Letter from Brussels, the podcast where you get to know Europe like you've never known it before. The war in Iran has focused attention again on how we generate, purchase, and consume energy. And we're going to talk about all of that today, and we're going to demonstrate why Europe as a whole and the local community where you live need to step up the efforts to generate energy in a renewable, sustainable, and locally sourced way. And we're going to look at some of the local leaders who are already carrying out some really interesting projects to achieve those goals. Of course, as always, we're going to finish talking about the capital of the EU, Brussels Capital Region. But today we're going to do it in a different way with a little fun quiz that's coming up. Is it wind energy, geothermal energy, or ancient skeletons?
Geothermal.
I think that's the only logical answer here.
I'm joined as always by Julia Konowdowska, our colleague studio manager Ed Mascinskas, and today we're joined by our political advisor who follows energy policy, Andrei Lauter. So hello and welcome to all of you. Julia, we're going to start with you. What fascinating places in the EU are we visiting today?
Well, today I'm actually going to take you to two different places. We are going to go to Taurage in Lithuania and to the capital of Estonia, Tallinn.
The stories we're going to be talking about today apply to all member states of the EU. And can you tell us a little bit why you're taking us to these two places?
Absolutely. Starting with Lithuania and the city of Taurage, we have a liberal mayor, Dovydas Kaminskas, and he's introducing quite innovative projects, you could say, when it comes to environmental policies. So there's a program called Wind is Colored Green, which focuses on wind energy. And it's a very interesting initiative because basically the energy transition towards green energy is being co-created with the community. So this program basically takes local residents, students, teachers, children, literally everyone from the community, and they're taken to these wind farms where they are educated about how wind turbines work, about the positive effects of this kind of energy. And it's really an initiative that's meant to show you why we should transition towards the green energy and what are the benefits of transitioning towards the green energy.
That's fantastic. You know, I'm a big supporter, of course, of clean energy. When you know the science of why the climate is changing, then it's just obvious that we need to transition to clean energy. But I had never imagined what you just described now. You could never do that with oil. You could never bring children up to an oil pump, but you can do this with clean energy projects. That's really interesting. What else can you tell us then? So Tallinn is the other project, yes?
Absolutely. Tallinn also has a very interesting project when it comes to switching towards clean energy. We have a deputy mayor that comes from a Liberal Party, Taurage. So here the story is more about energy storage, because what happened in Tallinn is they basically built an enormous thermos, you could say. The largest thermal energy storage facility in the Baltics. So Tallinn has built a 42-meter high tank which can hold up to 20 million liters of hot water. I know what I'm saying is a lot of very technical information, but the way it works in practice is very simple. When demand for heat is low, the excess energy is stored in the tank, and when the demand rises, the heat is released back into the district to heat the networks and keep the houses warm. And of course, this is a very interesting solution because you're not relying on additional fossil fuels. You just have the heat constantly stored in this enormous thermos, as they call it. And the reason I chose this story is because I think it's a very good example of how it doesn't necessarily need to be difficult to switch to renewable energy. This story is a very good example of how sometimes the solutions and the resources are already there. You just have to find a smart way to go about it and a smart way to use the energy that you already have in a renewable way.
And both these places show that it can be done very quickly. If a city decides, Taurage did it within 2 years. They installed a almost 50 megawatt hybrid renewable park, and they got rid of dependency on imported Russian gas in a very dramatic way. Together with biomass district heating, they are now fully energy independent. We have places like Tartu in Estonia, where they got rid of dependency on imported Russian gas. through wood chip biomass heating, and they now heat up to 50,000 homes. And that was achieved within a few years because they decided, not only because of the green energy ambitions, but they didn't want to depend on an external power.
So this is really interesting, Andre. So on the one hand, we have the need, which some are still unfortunately skeptical about, but the fact is that over 150 years, we have been increasingly pumping CO2, carbon dioxide, into the Earth's atmosphere. And a lot of people don't understand this, but actually the Earth's atmosphere, it's like a contained mixture of gases in a bottle, because the gravity holds it around the Earth. It doesn't evaporate away into space. So if you have a mixture of gases in a bottle, and then you start pumping in another gas, you are inevitably going to change the behavior of that mixture that's inside the inside the bottle. And we've been doing that for 150 years. We've been pumping CO2 at levels that didn't exist naturally into the Earth's atmosphere. So of course we are changing the behavior of the Earth's atmosphere. And because the population has exploded in the last 150 years around the planet, then we are pumping CO2 in ever increasing numbers. So the change of the atmosphere's behavior is reaching levels which are threatening human society as we know it. So that is something that we've known. Some people are still skeptical about that, unfortunately, which is why we're taking so long to transition to clean energy. Some people, some leaders, some industries are still holding on to the oil and the gas. Do you have other examples around Europe which are similar to the ones that we've been discussing in Taurage and Tallinn?
Well, one that I wanted to mention in particular is the Nova Gorica solar power plant, which happened just last year. And it was built next to the Slovenia's only pumped storage hydropower station. So you have a geographically adapted, basically energy storage, a lake that functions as a battery, a hydro power station that pumps water back into the hill. And this was just the first phase. It happened last year with the EU funding. And it already now powers 800 to 900 households with future doubling of capacity. This is a small scale solution, but it's helping reduce dependency at the local level. And this is, when we do this for a few years, like Lemvig in Denmark, which for a long time supported local ownership of wind turbines, then it amounts to not only meeting local needs for energy and achieving independence, but Lemvig now produces enough renewable power for 20,000 households, which is double the amount it holds. So it's actually becoming a net exporter of energy. And if every European city, community, region aims to achieve that, will be more than energy secure. We will have energy abundance. It is theoretically possible, and we have practical examples that prove it already being done.
Now, for our listeners, and even a little bit for myself, tell us exactly what is a heat pump.
A heat pump is a device that, like in the fridge, except in the other way around, removes heat from a medium, and most of these heat pumps are air. Removes heat from external air and then concentrates it and puts it back into water, which then heats your home like normal.
So it's recycling heat.
Yes, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they are a much more efficient way of heating your home by electricity. And it can reduce costs for a family home from, previously they spent 2,000, 3,000 euros a year just on gas or oil. Mm-hmm. And now the electricity bills have gone up by 20, 30 euros a month, which is not comparable. Or even if it's 50, 100 euros a month, it's still not 2,000 a year. Of course, all of these measures have been heavily subsidized by the member states, also through European funding. But what I'm saying is that the ramp up of these solutions happened in the last 3-4 years, and it happens each time we have a crisis. And even this year's Iran crisis has made us more resilient, which means that next crisis that will happen in the international oil markets, we will again be more prepared, and we will again have fewer households and fewer municipalities where we will have a serious energy crisis or spikes of winter heating costs that become socially unacceptable.
So once again, local leaders are showing the way, pioneering and transforming the European Union on the ground. One final question before we come to Brussels and to our fun quiz. Where does nuclear fit in all of this? And I have to admit that I have always been in favor of nuclear fusion, but rather in favor of ending nuclear fission because of the radioactive waste. But I learned some months ago that actually the technology in terms of reducing the waste and compacting it has improved tremendously. So perhaps I'm a little bit more open-minded, given that we are up against these dual deadlines in terms of climate change and in terms of energy security, to have to reduce our dependence on oil and gas. So is nuclear nuclear fission? Nuclear fusion is not yet an option because the technology is still being developed. But is nuclear fission part of this package? I know some countries and the European Commission is looking into it, but how can it be part of this package?
When we talk about technology, from the Committee of the Regions point of view, what we are now for the first time ever discussing nuclear energy in the opinion on small modular reactors. And these are particularly interesting because they make nuclear energy much more manageable. So far, nuclear power plants have been a generational national project that usually cost tens of billions of euros, that dragged into perpetuity for decades, that faced delays, corruption, and annexes, and more money being. So people were not only against nuclear because of the fear of the risk and the waste, but because it's such a big thing that many nations just don't manage. Small modular reactors bring this down to 2 to 3 billion if the projections of how the cost could evolve if we start building them. Now, one reason that we need to be to need to invest in this technology is because the others are. And if China and the US and Japan have these small modular reactors and they turn out to be another very cheap way of producing electricity and abundance of electricity, we will not be competitive if we don't have them.
Right.
Because, yeah.
Okay, so that's clearly one of the factors that we need to look into, one of the options, one of the solutions. So thank you to both of you. Thank you, Julia, for identifying these two projects in Taurage and Tallinn. Look at the conversation that triggered. Remind us where you found these two projects.
Stories like this can be found in our newsletter. We like to call it a monthly snapshot that gives a picture of what's happening in Europe. It's called Streetfield. It comes out the first Tuesday of every month, and you can subscribe to it on our social media channels. So that's at Renew Europe CoR.
Exactly. So find our website, and there you can subscribe to Streetfield. So the Earth's atmosphere is changing its behavior because we keep pumping CO2 into it. The more we burn oil and gas, it's changing in a way that is threatening human society as we know it. Geopolitics means that purchasing and depending on the purchase of oil and gas is not a very safe thing. Therefore, for energy security, we need to produce energy in a renewable, clean, and locally sourced way in the European Union. And as we've seen today, there are lots of different ways to do it. And thankfully, lots of local leaders who are showing leadership and taking the initiative to do it in a way, as you said, Andre, that is relevant and makes sense to that local community. And speaking of local communities, let's come to the capital of the European Union, Brussels capital region, where energy is a big topic as well. And I'm not going to tell you, it's Julia and Andre who are going to guess how renewable energy is developing in Brussels. Are you ready? I'm going to be asking, let's do it exactly. I'm going to be asking you 5 questions. I'll give you 3 possible answers, and both of you have to guess the right answer, okay? Don't get nervous. So, question number 1. What renewable energy technology can residents of Brussels most easily install in their homes? Is it wind energy? Is it solar energy? Is it nuclear energy?
It will have to be solar.
I was gonna say solar.
Solar energy is the right answer. Question number 2. What underground energy source can many buildings in Brussels exploit? I'm going to repeat this question. What underground energy source can many buildings in Brussels exploit? Is it wind energy, geothermal energy, or ancient skeletons?
Geothermal.
I mean, I think that's the only logical answer here.
Geothermal is the correct answer. Question number 3. This is a long question, so listen carefully. Almost half of all renewable energy generated in Brussels comes from burning household organic waste, which produces hot steam, which activates a turbine, which produces electricity. What color is the bag in which the household organic waste is placed? Is it yellow, blue, or orange?
Well, I think it must be orange.
Orange is the right answer. Well done. Okay, those first 3 questions were very easy. Now to 2 hard ones to finish off. Question number 4. What is the name of the free advisory service that helps residents in Brussels assess their home's energy efficiency? Is it Upgrade? Is it Housegrade? Is it Homegrade?
That is a more complex question.
That I don't know.
Can you please repeat the answers?
Is it Upgrade, Housegrade, or Homegrade?
Maybe
I'm gonna go with home grade.
Well done, Julia. I'm giving that one to you. You already said you didn't know. It is Homegrade, absolutely. And now the final question. Of the 19 districts in Brussels capital region, which 2 districts have the highest number of solar panels installed both on private homes and company buildings? Is it Central Brussels and Anderlecht, Central Brussels and Schaerbeek, or Central Brussels and Oudegem? By your silence, I detect ignorance.
I want to say B, but it's a complete guess.
Wait,
I have
Central
absolutely no
Brussels.
evidence to
So Central Brussels and Anderlecht, Central Brussels and Schaerbeek, Central Brussels and Oudegem. I mean, I didn't know this myself. I just found the statistics. I was quite surprised, actually.
I'm gonna guess Central Brussels and Oudegem, just because Oudegem is different from the other. It's more city, more urban.
True, it is a different district, but that's the wrong answer. Julia, you've got a 50-50
Would
chance.
you look at that? Huh. I still want to say that it's going to be B.
Well,
Schaerbeek.
you're both wrong. It's Central Brussels and Anderlecht.
Anderlecht.
Yes. Anyway, you've both done very well. You've proved that you are residents of Brussels. You know which bag to put the household
Oh,
waste
but it's
in.
true that Anderlecht has one of the largest solar power plants on top of the abattoir. So
I think it could be because of industries and
yeah.
companies in Anderlecht. Yeah.
But all of these questions show that even in Brussels, in a city, you have so many measures. You can do heat pump if you live in a private house. Our building installed solar power.
Yeah.
Then you have biomass reused for heat and energy generation. The issue with Brussels still, and we can see it now in this heat, is insulation. And they're doing a lot on that as well.
They are doing a lot.
But old buildings are particularly difficult to upgrade to the modern standard of almost energy passivity and shielding us from this heat.
But this home grade advisory service, which I've used, precisely for the insulation of our home is a fantastic service, and I think they're helping a lot of people to really improve the insulation of homes, because it is one of the big issues in Brussels. But even preparing this quiz and discovering that the geothermal energy is an option in Brussels was also really unexpected for me and interesting. But it demonstrates yet again that every local community has various options which are clean, which are renewable, and which enhance your independence as an economy, and ultimately that's what we want for the European Union. So there we have it. That's the end of the latest episode of Letter from Brussels. We hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.